What's up, everybody? Welcome to DFS by the Numbers. These are my Draftkings MMA picks for UFC 250. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another Draftkings MMA video. Coming off of a pretty decent week, my cash lineup hit, my single lineup hit. I actually use the same lineup for cash and single this week. I do not usually do that. Had Dan Rodriguez, 125 points, Roosevelt Roberts, 104, Dern, 92, Spike Carlisle, 60 points and a loss, Brandon Royval, 97 points at 9% ownership in cash, Casey Kenny, 106. So killed Sigel and cash. And then GPP lineups, I had like 20 amazing lineups. Like all these guys scored over 100, and fighting next was Spike Carlisle. So I really needed him to win. Came out of there, tried to finish the fight early. If he did that, I would have won hundreds and hundreds of dollars. Even if he would have won the decision, I thought he did win that decision, but the judges saw otherwise. And like fight metric was kind of off. They did not give Mackenzie Dern a takedown. They gave Carlisle only 3 reversals and sweeps. I could remember like 3 reversals in the first or second round alone. I think there was like at least 7 or 8 reversals in that fight. So it is what it is. It's all part of the game, but ready to get right back into it with UFC 250. Just a couple quick announcements to make. First of all, you guys can check me out on Patreon. Thank you guys for 50 patrons. I made a promise. Once I got 30 patrons, I'd start doing articles, and I have done that. I did one last week. I'm going to be doing one this week, and the next week, and the next week, and the next week, and so on. I'm going to be giving out my cash core plays, my play of the week, my fade of the week, the fights to target with a little write-up on the fights to target and why you should target them and which fighters to target in those. And also I'm gonna do like a shot in the dark play, like a slate breaker play on there as well. I think there's 2 possible ones that I will write up for this week as well. And also, if you do play FanDuel, or if you're interested in FanDuel, I'm going to be doing a FanDuel article as well for you guys. So make sure you guys sign up. Lots of good stuff on there. My model, my targets, my projections, optimizer, all that good stuff. So I'll put the link in the description for that. And I'm doing another free roll contest like I did for UFC 249. Going to be doing it for all the big cards. First, what you got to do is like this video. Also, subscribe if you haven't yet. And just drop your DraftKings username, and I will get you in that contest. Last time we had Donnie win. He actually faded Ferguson and Gaethje and ended up winning the whole tournament, won $25. So it's not much, $25, but just something to say thank you guys for all the support. But enough talking. Let's get into the card here. I did post my fight predictions video, so guys, check that out. I'll put the link in the comments. Just check that out. I'm going to go more into depth on that. I'm just looking merely from a DraftKings perspective. So start with the fights that do not go to decision lines here. Nunez Spencer, minus 295. Fight does not go to decision. I don't think it goes to decision. I do think Nunez does get the finish, but probably playing only one side of that. Maybe a little bit of Spencer's like a hedge. Menifield Clark, minus 275. Fight does not go to decision. Again, I think Menifield should be the one ending this fight inside the distance. I think if Clark wins, it's going to be by decision. Caceres Hooper, minus 210. Fight does not go to decision. Definitely agree with that. If Caceres wins, it might be by decision. Don't really see him knocking out Hooper. O'Malley Wineland, minus 195. Fight does not go to decision. I do think this fight's going to end inside the distance with somebody getting knocked out, whether it is Wineland or O'Malley, and I do think it's probably going to be Wineland getting knocked out there. Patolo Bird, minus 180. Fight does not go to decision. I do think this is going to end inside the distance. Both these guys are finishers. I think the line can even be wider than that. So going to now get more into detail with my plays. All the plays you guys see here are not all of my plays. I do have exposure to more guys. These are just my favorite plays. So my core plays here, Amanda Nunez, 9,400. The women's GOAT in MMA. I think a lot of people are giving her more credit, giving Spencer more credit than she really deserves for getting dominated by Chris Cyborg. She got dominated by Chris Cyborg, but she was very tough. She hung in there for 3 rounds. I think people are taking that into account and thinking Nunes isn't going to finish Spencer. And they're thinking since Nunes went to decision with GDR, that she's going to go to decision with Spencer as well. I do think Nunes finishes Spencer, and I do think it's in the first 3 rounds. I think Spencer's striking defense is very, very bad. Her striking is very bad. I think Nunes is going to have a field day on the feet. I don't think Spencer's going to be able to take all that volume and power from Nunes. So I like Nunes in cash. I like her in GPPs. I do think she's going to be a little bit lower owned. Women's MMA definitely brings down the ownership. And, last time Amanda Nunes was 9,100 against Holly Holm. A lot of people were picking Holly Holm against her. And Amanda Nunes ended up finishing her in the first round at lower ownership than some of the other guys in the 9,000s. And I was definitely overweight to Amanda Nunes that night. I had like over 50%, and I think she was like 30%. So definitely could see her ownership going down a little bit. Maybe since she is the main event, it probably will be like in the 35 range, maybe 40%. That is pushing it range. But I do think she will be a little bit under-owned compared to where she should be, if that makes sense. Because she is expensive, but she's a phenomenal play. Sean O'Malley, 9,300. I like this play a lot. I think this fight's set up for him to win. It's just Wineland is tough. He's been knocked out, 2 or 3 times. He hasn't been knocked out since like 2014 or 2015. It's been a while. But O'Malley hits very hard. I do not like what I see from Wineland's striking defense, so I do think O'Malley can put him away and put him away early. Although he is tough, I do think he will not be able to eat those shots from O'Malley and that volume that O'Malley brings there. So I'll get into it a little bit later in the video here, but I do have some sneaky plays, and Wineland is one of them, and I'll tell you why in a little bit. But O'Malley should smash. I mean, I like him in cash. I like him in GBPs. He should smash. Chase Hooper, 8,500. Another guy who should smash. Another guy, this fight is being made for Chase Hooper. The UFC handpicked this fight for him to get a win against Caceres here. Caceres has been submitted, 6-7 times? A bunch of times. Very, very poor submission defense, ground game, and Hooper has an elite ground game. His ground game is elite. The problem is Hooper's striking is awful. His wrestling is not good. But I do think he'll be able to get Caceres down at some point in this fight, hopefully early, and I do think he will submit him. If this fight touches the ground once, Caceres is getting submitted. So for that reason, I like Cooper quite a bit as a core play, going to have probably close to 50% ownership for him. I think he's going to be one of the highest owned plays on the slate as well, because he does have one of the best inside distance props on the slate. He does have a path to victory where he does score high on Draftkings, and he did score really high his last fight as well. So going to be popular for sure. Charles Byrd, 8,800. I think someone who's going to go a little bit under the radar here. Nobody knows who Charles Byrd is. Nobody knows who Mackie Pitolo is. Both these guys are low-level fighters, but I do think somebody's going to get finished. I like Byrd's wrestling. The thing is, Byrd has been knocked out in his last 2 fights, and Pitolo hits very, very hard. So if Bird's chin does hold up, I think if he fights with the right game plan and takes down Pitolo, he can submit him in that first round. Pitolo does not have a ground game whatsoever, and Pitolo got beat by Callan Potter, one of the worst fighters in the UFC, if not the worst fighter in the UFC. So Charles Byrd should smash here if his chin holds up. He is getting up there in age, which is also concerning, but I like Byrd quite a bit, and I like that price tag of 8,800. Getting a discount off of Amanda Nunes, which I think he can possibly score as much as Amanda Nunes if he does get that first round submission. And if Amanda Nunes goes into like the 3rd round, I do think Byrd can outscore or O'Malley. So I do think there's potential for Byrd to be lower owned and score very, very high. So I do like him as a core play. As for cash, I don't know. I can't really picture myself playing Byrd in cash just because of his chin issues. But maybe I'll take a shot at it. But I do like him in a lot of GBP lineups. I'll tell you that for sure. All right. GBP Plays Alonzo Menafield, 9,000. He should come out here and smash Devin Clark. The thing is, I see a lot of love for Devin Clark. I see a lot of people betting him. And that they're probably thinking Devin Clark's going to come out here and get takedowns. Menafield is very green. He's green on the ground. If Devin Clark does come out here with a smart game plan and does take down Menafield, I do think Clark has a path to victory. But Menafield should smash here. I did not like how Devin Clark looked in his last fight. Looked very scared. I think it was against Ryan Spann. He looked very scared on the feet. Did not look like he wanted to be there. And then Spann closed the distance and ended up submitting him. So I do think Menafield can, impose the same threat that Ryan Spann did. on Devin Clark and close the distance and finish him in that first round. Finish him early there at 9,000. I do like him a lot. As long as he does not get taken down, as long as this stays inside the first round. If this gets out of the first round, it could get a little dicey. I don't think Minifield's ever been to decision, so he definitely could get dicey. So maybe not a cash play, but definitely a GBP in a lot of it. Alex Perez, 8,300. I think he's better on the feet. I think he can definitely avoid takedowns from Formiga here. I think he's a very good wrestler. I do think he hits harder. I think if someone gets a finish, it is probably going to be Perez. We've seen Formiga knocked out a couple times. But I think he can maybe hit value with volume here or even get a knockout on Formiga. So I like him as a GBP play here. Nothing crazy, but definitely a fine play if he can stay off the mat, stuff those takedowns from Formiga, and probably don't shoot on Formiga. Maybe he wants to, but I would not mess around on the ground with Formiga in this fight. Corey Sandhagen, 8,000. You also got Aljamain Sterling, 8,200. You play both of them. This fight is as close as you can get. I just think Sandhagen's going to be, the better fighter on the feet. I think he will probably get taken down once or twice, but I do think he'll be able to scramble up. He has elite scrambling ability, good submission defense as well. Don't think he's going to get submitted. I think he can stop those takedowns, land the harder shots, land more shots on the feet, and win a decision that way. But it will be really close with Sterling probably landing a takedown or two. And you never know with the judges, especially lately. So I'd play both sides. I think Sandhagen can definitely land more on the feet. Sterling is very hard to hit, but he's never faced somebody like Sandhagen. So I like Sandhagen. I'll also be playing some Sterling, so make sure you guys play him as well. Probably play both sides. Don't necessarily think there's going to be a finish, but I do think there could be some good volume in this fight. Cody Garbrandt, 8,600. I'll get to it in a little bit, but I do think Sun Tao will probably win this fight. I think Garbrandt should win this fight. He should, but you just can't trust his chin. I think if he wins, it's probably by lots of volume or even a finish on a Sun Tao. So you do got to play him for that reason, but I'm not going to touch Garbrandt in cash. You can't with his chin. I'm done trusting his chin. He's been knocked out 3 times in a row. So I'll let you guys know I am picking a Sun Tao to win by knockout. I go into more detail in my prediction video, but I just can't trust Cody's chin. So I will be playing some of them because I do think he has upside, but it's just hard to trust him in a lot of lineups. Herbert Burns, 8,900. I think this play is going to be surprisingly popular due to the name Burns. We just saw him fight last weekend. People are going to want to play Burns, and he did have a fantastic finish. The problem is he's going against Dunham, who is actually very good on the feet. He's very good in BJJ. I do think he's a better striker than Burns. I think, Burns has very good BJJ, but Dunham's BJJ is very good as well. I think Dunham has the better wrestling. So I don't necessarily get this price. Burns did open up as like a minus 270 favorite. He's now minus 230. I think it will only close even more. But if Burns could win by knockout, I think he could hurt the body of Dunham. But Burns only has 1 finish in his career, and it was just his last fight. So I don't think he's going to submit Dunham. I don't think he's going to knock him out unless it's to the body. So I don't really see him scoring too well unless he does get him to the body and get him out of there. But this might be a play I'm going to be pretty under-owned on. Maybe fade some of that, I don't want to call it chalk, but some of that high-ish ownership. Just because of the name, I think it'll be kind of like in the 20% own range. And I do like guys around him better, like Bird and Minifield and just pretty much everybody else around him. So I'm going to let other people play him. He's a fine play. He should win. He's the younger fighter. But it's just really tough fight for him here. All right, live dogs. Maki Pitolo, 7,400. If he wins, it's going to be in the first round. It's going to be early. Bird's been knocked out his last 2 fights. At first, I was actually picking Pitolo to win after digging into some tape. No way I can do that. He's pretty bad. Bad takedown defense, bad wrestling, bad everything except he has that power. Does not have good cardio as well. Bird doesn't have the best cardio as well either. So if Pitolo wins, it's early. So you got to play some of them. 7,400 if he'll be on the winning lineup if he does get a knockout. Rafael Assunção, I think he can get a finish here on Garbrandt, obviously, with Garbrandt's chin. Also, I do think he can win a decision as well. I do think this fight's going to be a lot closer than people think, even if there is no knockout. So I do like Assunção. Cody hasn't won in a long time. What was it, 2015, 2016? Since Cody won, it's been a long time against Dominic Cruz. So it's been a while since Cody's won. But Assunção is no slouch whatsoever. I think people are definitely underestimating him here. So I like Assunção at 7,600. Going to be playing a decent amount of him. Gerald Meerschaert, 7,800. You can never count out Mearshart. He's getting better and better every fight. This fight is very, very close. I could see him winning a decision here. If Heinisch, wants to take down Mearshart, maybe Mearshart does find a submission. Heinisch has been submitted before, I think one time. Mearshart's dangerous. He's dangerous on the feet. He's going to have the reach advantage too. I think if this is on the feet and he can keep the distance, he definitely can maybe hurt Heinisch. Heinisch is very tough, though he's not going to knock him out, but maybe hurt him. He does throw with some power, some good body kicks as well, kicks to the body as well. And yeah, he's not a bad play. I'd rather play him than Heinisch. Heinisch does not score well at all. I don't think he's going to score well in this fight either. I think Heinisch is going to win. It's just I think Mearshart has probably the more upside on DraftKings. Alex Caceres, 7,700. This play is interesting, and this play is something I'm really interested in playing, especially because of how much ownership I am going to have on Hooper and how owned Hooper is going to be. I am going to take a shot on Caceres. First of all, I think his wrestling's awful. I think his ground game is absolutely terrible, but he is the better striker. If he keeps us on the feet somehow, I do think he's going to dominate this fight and probably score high. He doesn't score high usually, but I do think he's going to score pretty high if he keeps us on the feet, keeps Hooper on the feet. I do think he will score high. Maybe even get a finish. He's not really known as a knockout guy, but maybe he gets a finish. But Hooper is very tough, so I do like Hooper quite a bit. He's one of my core plays, but I'm going to play some Caceres to hedge. I suggest some of you guys do too, because he will be low owned, and maybe when I hedge off some of your Hooper, so I do think he will be sub 20%. I don't think anybody's going to play this guy. First of all, he doesn't score high at all, and second of all the hype on Hooper is going to drive away the ownership from Caceres. So kind of a sneaky play. I have another sneaky play I'll get into in a little bit, but I do think this play is really sneaky. Low ownership, and I do think he has a path to victory. So not counting on him to win, but the path to victory is there. Evan Dunham, 7,300, kind of a sneaky play here. First fight of the night, nobody's going to play it. He's going to be, probably 10% owned around there. Very low owned. I think he has a path to victory here. I think he's the better fighter. It's just, he's 2 losses in his last 2 fights. He's coming off of, a 2-year layoff. It's hard to pick him here. I understand why the line is where it's at, but the line is closing in. Dunham, the better striker. I was watching tape on him. He's a pretty good striker. I'm really surprised with what I saw from Dunham on tape. His BJJ is good. It's always been good. I don't think Burns is going to submit him. I think if anybody gets takedowns, it's probably going to be Dunham. Dunham has some good wrestling, and we've seen Burns controlled on the mat before by a much lower competition. So I'd like this play a lot at 7,300 as a punt play here in a way. I'm not going to go crazy on it, but I do think the line should be closer. I am picking Burns to win because of his youth and because there's so many question marks with Dunham. But I do think Dunham has a path to victory here. So 7,300, I'll definitely play some. And a reminder that Burns only has 1 knockout in his career. Dunham is very weak to the body, so he could get finished to the body. But Dunham is tough other than that. And as for Burns' ground game, very good on the ground, but I see it being very hard to submit a guy like Evan Dunham as well. So definitely worth taking a stab on Evan Dunham there. All right, pump plays. Eddie Weiland, 6,900. This guy has won 5 of his 6 UFC fights by finish. So yes, I'm going to play some Weiland. I'm going to play him at probably sub 15% here, 10-15% around that range. I'm going to play some of him, probably to hedge out some of my O'Malley ownership. Might throw him in a single. That's how I typically win a lot of my singles. I've won a couple this year just by putting in some of these crazy plays like Courtney Casey, girls like that. Or plays like that, the low-owned plays, the sub-10% plays. Roy Val, he was like 13% in my single last week. I like playing these high upside, low-owned plays. So I might throw them in my single. I don't know yet. I'm going to throw one of these guys on my single, whether it be Dunham, Wineland, or Caceres. I can assure you one of those guys are going to be my single. Very low-owned, and I do think they have a path to victory. Might even throw them in the Millie Maker as well. But Wineland does have a path to victory. It is with a knockout. I do think he's going to get beat here, but like I said, he's dangerous. And yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he knocked out O'Malley. And he would do it at really low ownership. So something to look out there. Not going to go too crazy. Probably like 15-20%, just a small hedge on O'Malley. And I like doing these hedges a lot, especially in MMA, because anything can happen. And never count out Wineland. I just can't pick him here at all with the striking defense. Is if O'Malley like engages in a brawl, I do think there's a path to victory for Wineland. Maybe catches O'Malley, but O'Malley should win this fight. I'm not telling you to go all in on Wineland, but O'Malley should definitely win. Devin Clark, not too interested in it. He could go for takedowns. Don't see him submitting Minifield or anything, but I do think he could win a decision. Just don't know how high it's going to score. But path to victory is there for Devin Clark if he can get Minifield out of that first round, get him tired. Don't necessarily see him finishing Minifield, but maybe he, like dominates on the mat. I could see it, but I just don't picture that happening. I think Minifield's going to knock him out. So not too high on Devin Clark, but it's just another option there. So fades, only got one really, Cody Stamann, and I say a fade. I'm not going to fade him 100%. Like in 150 lineups might have like 5-10%, maybe a little bit less than that. It's just so hard to play Stamann when you got guys below him like Minifield. You got Nunez above him. You got O'Malley above him. You got all these players above him. So it's hard to play Stamann. I do think he will be low owned, very low owned. So if you want to take a shot on Stamann, but Kelleher's very tough. He's been knocked out like once, right? Like once. And he's been submitted a lot of times, but I don't really see Stamann submitting him. So I see Stamann winning a pretty comfortable decision, maybe scoring like 80 points. So that's kind of a fade for me. All right, guys, that's about it. Just want to remind you guys to drop your DraftKings names so I can get you guys into that free roll contest. See who wins this week. It's going to be really interesting. I'm going to be in it as well. Make sure you guys become a member of my Patreon and receive full access to my model, customizable optimizer, premium projections, GPP lineup percentages, premium breakdown and strategy video, example cash lineup, and also I do that article now with a bunch of good stuff in there, going over my cash core, my play of the week, my fade of the week, shot in the dark play, and fights to target breakdown as well. So bunch of good stuff in there. Check that out. I'll put the link in the description. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you guys give this video if you enjoyed it. Give this video a like if you enjoyed it. Also subscribe if you haven't yet. Lots of good content coming. You got NASCAR, PJ's coming back in a couple weeks. I think like mid-June coming back. So lots of good stuff to look forward to. So make sure you subscribe so you not miss out on all that good stuff. And that's about it. Good luck this weekend in DraftKings MMA.